NASCAR has completed their rain tire test from this past week. Brett Holmes Racing has finalized their 2021 NASCAR Truck Series schedule, and it looks like there are some updates that are coming to Talladega Super Speedway. What's going, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We had a couple NASCAR stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first story we're going to jump into is Cameron Lawrence, as Cameron Lawrence is going to be making his NASCAR Truck Series debut at Circuit Americas for the Ray Brothers. For most of you who do not know, Cameron Lawrence is a two-time TA2 Trans Am champion. He also is the winningest driver in the TA2. I don't know how he's going to do in his trucks because the Ray Brother trucks are generally not that fast. But again, he's been a champion. He knows how to get it done on road courses. But I think equipment is going to matter a lot more. I'm wishing Cameron Lawrence the best luck. If he can come out of that Truck Series race at Circuit Americas with at least the top 30, I think that's going to be very, very impressive. But really, really awesome here that Cameron Lawrence is going to be getting an opportunity to race in NASCAR Truck Series and make his NASCAR Truck Series debut at Circuit of the Americas. We're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode. It was announced earlier today that Kansas Speedway is going to have limited fans for their upcoming weekend for the ARCA Series, the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and not Truck Series, Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and the ARCA races will have fans. I think that's all the series that are racing that weekend at Kansas Speedway. Really, really awesome in Kansas is once again get out of the fans. They had to get official word from the Kansas Health Department, so they were waiting on that word. But really, really good to see that Kansas Speedway is going to have fans. They have not announced how many fans there are going to be. I would assume they're probably going to have about as many as they had last year, which I think they had about 20 to 25% last year. Again, as more people continue to get the vaccine continues to roll out, I could definitely see more increase in fans. I could eventually see 50% or even 33% for all races coming up really, really soon. But yeah, really, really awesome that Kansas has announced limited fans. And the next race, I think, that needs to announce limited fans is Dover. We have not gotten word on that currently at this moment. We're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Mark Hillman. As Mark Hillman is going to become the crew chief for Derek Kraus for the rest of the 2021 season. For the first 5 races of 2021, Matt Noyce has been the crew chief for Derek Kraus for the first 5 races. And Derek Kraus has really, really struggled so far in 2021. He has like a 21st place average finish, only has 1 top 10 after 5 races. Also, he's Ben Rose crew chief last year, and Ben Rose was able to make it to the round of 8 in the NASCAR Truck Series Plus when he was able to win 1 race that season at Darlington. But other than that, Matt Noyce really has not been that impressive with crew chief. Mark Hillman has a pretty good history overall. He's done really, really good in the Truck Series, has pretty good stats overall, and I think he can help a driver like Derek Kraus, because I think Derek Kraus is a very, very talented driver. I don't know if this is a sophomore slump he's having, but I think Mark Hillman can help a very talented driver like Derek Kraus get up to speed and get up ranks. Again, I think the fact that Derek Kraus does not have practice and qualifying this year, I think that's why he's overall been struggling. I think Mark Hillman can go out there and help Derek Kraus become a much better driver and continue to improve him overall and help him get better and get him more up to speed going forward this season. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Brett Holmes Racing's 2021 schedule. Now, Brett Holmes Racing has already ran 2 races this year up to this point. They ran, I think, at the Daytona Road Course, and I think they also ran Atlanta. It was either Homestead, it was either Daytona Road Course or Atlanta. I can't remember exactly which races they ran, but Brett Holmes Racing has already ran 2 races this year. They are planning on running 12 additional races this year in the NASCAR Truck Series in 2021. Brett Holmes is going to run 7 of the races, and Sam Mayer is who's going to be making his debut at Richmond in the Truck Series this upcoming season. He will be making his first of 5 scheduled starts this upcoming season, and Brett Holmes is going to run the rest. In addition to that, Brett Holmes Racing is going to be running 11 ARCA races, including a couple races where they're going to have 2 cars out on the racetrack in the ARCA Series, which is going to at least help the ARCA field. Brett Holmes Racing really hasn't been too impressive, to be honest with you, with Brett Holmes. I think Brett Holmes is a very, very talented driver, and he won a championship last year in ARCA, but Brett Holmes hasn't been too impressive. I think the guy has a lot of talent and a lot of capabilities. We see what he can do in ARCA, but he hasn't been overall too impressive so far in the Truck Series. But again, a team that doesn't have a lot of experience, a team that just started up this year, I mean, they're not running full-time, so it's no surprise, really, that they have struggled so far. But they brought a young driver like Sam Mayer, who has a lot of talent, who I think in his races at least, I think that team can definitely perform exceptionally well. I think the goal for that team is to try to finish in the top 30 as much as possible. Because again, the Truck Series field is super competitive. But it's really awesome that team is getting run. As for the ARCA Series, I think that honestly Brett Holmes has a really good shot of winning this race, especially with the ARCA Series being not as competitive as he used to be. I think both Brett Holmes and Sam Mayer, when they're in the race, especially Sam Mayer, who's a very, very talented driver, and he's really, really awesome in ARCA. I think both drivers have really good potential and a really good shot to contend for those wins. But it's really, really awesome and really cool that they're going to run quite a few races in ARCA and run quite a few races in trucks here. And I do think that there's a very good chance that in 2022, if their season improves and it does go much better for them as the year goes on, I think as the season goes on, I do think Brett Holmes and them are going to be thinking about going full-time in 2022 with Brett Holmes. And I do hope that goes forward because I like Brett Holmes a lot. And I'm hoping that in 2022, they will be able to run full-time. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to talk about Talladega Superspeedway. As it looks like there are some things that are going on with Talladega Superspeedway outside of the racetrack. According to Adam Stern, he has reported that NASCAR is proposing a new 3 million square foot business park at Talladega as part of its partnership with SA developer Hillman. Hillwood is an SA developer that does work with NASCAR. They work at 13 of the current tracks. They also have work at Chicagoland and other racetracks, and also including Auto Club as well. And they build up things around the racetracks. They build things like the Daytona City that you see outside the racetrack, the one Daytona racetrack. And they also have built a lot of other things as well outside of the racetrack. A lot of these tracks are looking to bring in fans. And one of the things about Talladega Superspeedway is the track is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Yes, Talladega is a decently sized town, but it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and there's not a lot of stuff that's currently built around Talladega Superspeedway at the moment. This proposal to build up Talladega is really, really big because, one, it would attract money into the racetrack. It could go inside the racetrack, and it could bring a lot of ventures into sport. Things like shopping centers around the racetrack, things like hotels around the racetrack, things like restaurants. This right here would build Talladega up into like its own town. I mean, there's been talks about other racetracks like Atlanta building like amusement parks. Building around a racetrack is what's going to keep these tracks in business. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Chicagoland, unfortunately, is probably going out of business because they really don't have anything built around that racetrack. And there's talks that it's going to become a factory at some point. So that's really going to suck. But the fact that racetracks like Talladega are looking to build up around it is really, really huge for the future of Talladega Superspeedway. I mean, Talladega Superspeedway is probably never going away anytime soon. But you want to build around that racetrack to bring more money into the city and more money into that. And the fact that they're looking at this is really, really awesome overall. I'm really happy that they're doing this. And hopefully, when it does get done, it will look really, really awesome at the conclusion of it. And now we're going to go ahead and jump onto the final story of today's episode, as we're going to go ahead and talk about the NASCAR rain tire test that took place yesterday. It was announced on Wednesday afternoon that they would be doing a rain tire test on Thursday, and they went ahead and did that rain tire test today. So, according to John Prost from NASCAR, the competition director, he basically said that the test went off as planned. Right before they went on the racetrack, they went ahead and dampened the racetrack to basically give a feel of a damp track. Now, keep in mind, this rain tire test is not for when there's a downpour on the racetrack, so they would not go on the racetrack of a downpour. But it is basically a way that NASCAR said it is a way to get the races back going sooner and get going a little bit quicker. And with the heat on the tires and stuff, you can get the track dried a lot quicker, and that could also play a strategy role into that as well. The drivers that tested yesterday were Kyle Larson and Chris Buescher. Now, they concluded the test. Kyle Larson said he didn't even feel much different than he had been in it, like the regular tires that they run. He said he didn't feel much different than that. Here is what John Probst had to say about this tire test. He said, here's a quote he said, "I think what we learned today was positive for sure. I think that we just need a little bit of to go through all the data to figure out what are the next steps." Yeah, what I heard yesterday was the test went out very, very well. Now, this is not the first time that NASCAR has done a rain tire test. In 1995, Terry Labonte, who drove for Hendrick Motorsports, he did a tire test also at Martinsville Speedway. Now, there are some differences from that test that Terry Labonte did than what Kyle Larson and Chris Buescher did today. Number one, it was a downpour and raining. It was downpour on the racetrack. This track was damp when he intentionally damped. Basically, they wet the racetrack basically with the trucks. They were trying to wet the track at Bristol Dirt. That right there, they tested that. And secondly, it was basically, like I said, the track was downpour as well. So that was very, very poor right there. And secondly, the drivers were a lot more happy, and he said it feel. And also, tire technology has come a long way from 1995 compared to 2021. So tire technology has come a much better way. than it used to be. And I think a lot of the reason that we're seeing these tire tests basically happen right now is you look back at Bristol Dirt. Even though we have visibility issues at Bristol Dirt and it was becoming a major problem for race teams, basically they learn to adapt and learn to adapt very quickly. And drivers can drive in multiple conditions. And we saw last year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series that they drove on the Charlotte Road, even though the track had quite a bit of the infield at the track. A lot of that track had the on-road. And yes, there were quite a few spins that ended up taking place, but they drove through a downpour. And honestly, with how much talent these guys had, they were able to keep it on the racetrack and not had a lot of issues overall. Yes, there were a lot of spins. I mean, there was a big one in the infield, but a lot of the time, the driver was able to keep it together, and they drove a lot slower, but the drivers were able to keep it on the racetrack as well. Kyle Larson also said during this tire test that he said he was able to keep about the same amount of speed compared to what Terry Labonte had in 1985, where he had to go about the speed that Fred Lorenzen had when he had his record in the 1960s. So that was something very important to note. NASCAR is looking at the future, and the fact that they are investing and doing a lot of crazy things. They brought a Bristol Dirt Race. There's talks about North Wilkesboro coming back right now. This rain tire test, investing into the sport. More road course on a schedule. Building around racetracks. NASCAR is doing a lot of things right now, and they're investing into the future of the sport, hoping that stuff pays off. Now, like I said, NASCAR said that they are not sure what the next step is. It said they have to evaluate and go through all the data, and then they will come back and basically give us an idea of when the next race, because there's talks and potential that with this tire test potentially being as successful as it is, there are talks right now that we could see the rain tires on the ovals as soon as potentially maybe as early as Richmond in a couple weeks. It's basically for the short ovals, tracks like New Hampshire, tracks like Dover, tracks like Bristol, and tracks like Richmond. So to me, with how the drivers were really happy and how the drivers thought it went, that's really good news overall. And hopefully we will see these rain tires on these cars really soon. I find that news very exciting. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's short NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications so you notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about NASCAR's tire test from this past week at Martinsville? Do you think it was a successful test or not? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about all the other NASCAR stories that we talked about in today's episode? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like YouTube can recommend more of these great videos out to you guys once again. If you enjoyed it, I would greatly and truly appreciate it. This could be the last video for a couple days. The Easter weekend is coming up, and I'm thinking about there might be a video tomorrow, but this might be the last video you guys might see for a couple of days. So if it is the last video you see, hope you guys have a happy Easter, spend time with your families, and hope you guys enjoy and have a great happy Easter as well. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.